All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Damla Aktekin, who is an inner child energetic wound healer, crystal healing teacher, and soul healing writer. Damla, how you doing today?
I am great. How are you, Timmy?
I am also doing great. Thanks so much for asking. And we'd like to jump right in. So if you could start with just telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
All right. Well, I am, as you said, in the field of healing. I work with energy. I work with inner children, as I call them, as well as with crystals and sound healing. I think my approach has been very informed by how I came to doing these things, which was through my own healing process. And it has now become sort of this exploration, playful thing. And you ask what I like doing. Lately, I have been diving into the world of astrology, which is very fascinating and very fun for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, I tell often to people like who ask my story. Mine was like I was plunged into a health problem while working in the corporate world. So I discovered yoga, and then I became a new mom, which was another healing story. So I needed to heal myself. So I found myself in the field, in the energetic realms, in the healing realms. And then now my journey is okay, I'm not gonna wait for another crisis to figure out what's next for me. So I'm following these threads of what I love, what I'm pulled towards, what gives me joy, and moving towards them bit by bit.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So tell us a little bit about your healing process. I know you've mentioned some events, but can you give us the A to Z, or would you rather not go into that?
I can. So are you looking into more how I came to do what I do, or more what I do with like inner child healing, or
Um,
both?
Specifically how you came to it through your own healing process, and then we'll get into what you do with clients on the day-to-day basis after that.
Of course. So as I mentioned a little bit, my background is in engineering and I have an MBA. So naturally, I just started working in the corporate world as a business consultant. Um, and at the end of 5 years of like really, taxing, long hours, all of those things, I started to have migraines. And then I was like, okay, something's got to change. And I discovered yoga. And that I call like before that, I existed in the head, in my mind, like everything was head based. And with yoga, I discovered that I had a body, which was very, very exciting and
Yeah,
very fun. So I really gave myself fully to it while working in my corporate job, and that came to an end. And I said, okay, I'm going to become a full-time yoga teacher. I got all these trainings, and then I became a studio manager, all of those things. And I thought that was it. I thought I was going to be a yoga teacher forever. I loved it.
yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And then in 2012, I had a beautiful pregnancy. I was giving prenatal yoga classes, chanting, everything. And then I had an emergency C-section, which sort of threw me off. And then the next phase of motherhood, threw me off even more. I just found myself not being able to connect to my body as I did previously with yoga because yoga didn't work. It felt like this deeper thing opened up in me that I didn't know was there. Um, and what I didn't know at that time was all the stuff I hadn't dealt with that I had thought to be normal in my family, upbringing, like just within me, all the shadow was just coming open through that one crack of surgery, like all out in the open. And it was pulling me down into a deep well of darkness, like pretty swiftly and fully. And I realized that I had a choice. And the choice was I could get pulled down deeper and deeper, or I could look for light And I remember being in the shower one day and I said, just, I'll do anything. Just send me anything. And the next thing I know, I was just browsing through YouTube and I found this thing about crystals. And I was like, whoa, there's something here. I could feel the energy of a crystal in my hand. And that opened the door to that kind of exploration of energy. So not just the mind, not just the body, the physical, but beyond that, what are we? What's really happening underneath the skin? And I started to experiment with crystals in a way that was just very intuitive, very in the moment, because I didn't have time. I was a new mom. I mean, I didn't have time to read a million books or to compare different, resources. And when I did look at a few things, they didn't feel like they would give me that initial feeling I got of the energy I felt from crystals. Instead, I felt like I would get like that person's whatever they like limited version of crystals, which wasn't what I was experiencing. So I dove deeper into that, started to experiment and meditate with crystals. And then that led to a gradual healing in me, not like all of a sudden, but like, oh, okay, like something's opening up, shifting. I think again, now looking back, I feel like I created some sort of safety in my body to be able to look at and hold those wounds. And that like gradually opened up like a little rose. And that led to me offering crystal healing first to family members, and then to private clients, and then in group settings, and then me creating memberships and programs and books around it. Um, on the way, I realized at one point, oh, okay, like with the people I work with one-on-one, we're discovering these places in them through crystal healing, which is again that it creates that safe container. We began to, in partnership with my clients, I realized, oh, we're working with the 4-year-old self of this person or the 10-year-old self. So that inner child element started to come more and more.
Mhm.
And even at times like ancestral inner children, ancestral wounding. So that is sort of where I am at the intersection of the quantum realm that we are, crystal healing that opens you up, and then finding out what versions of you might be hidden underneath that.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And so the two things that you kind of need to heal from, it was really long hours working in the corporate world. And then you had an emergency C-section and new motherhood kind of, took up enough time and energy where you were disconnected from yourself. And so after the first corporate stint, yoga came into play. Then after the emergency C-section and motherhood, that's when energy came into play and you really started intuitively meditating and playing with these crystals to heal yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, I like the word playing with them. Yes.
I gotcha. I'm glad you like that. I didn't want to like condescend or anything. So
Yeah,
there we
no.
go. Glad we're on the same page there. And I really like how you're open to it being like a playful thing and you're not re-entering that corporate mind of like this is serious hours and hours of work. Because I think that that is the stuff that can help you disconnect from that kind of like pure fun joyful part of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, to speak to that, I did a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
I what I did was, okay, I mean, I feel it working, but is it working? Like, is
Mhm.
this really happening? So I found a way to measure my chakras, um, whether they were, in the flow or perhaps not very flowy. Um, I worked with a pendulum at that time. So I would measure myself before and after again and again and again. Like I would fill notebooks with this until I think I was trying to convince myself until I could really convince myself that this is real. And then it just so happened that I was like, oh, like I can, like even before I measure, I can feel. that I'm what is happening, so I don't really need to measure,
Hmm.
you know? And then at the beginning also I would be like, oh, I partner with this crystal. Let me write that down. And that like I was very meticulous about it. I mean, that's what I knew. That's what I knew coming in. And then slowly it was like, oh, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It
Yeah.
can be a little more bit more open-ended.
Yeah. No, for sure. I love that. Well, tell us a bit more about what the day to day looks like with clients and how you're helping others heal.
Well, I have a lot of offers where people can dive into this themselves because that had been my journey. And I find that you really don't need to know that much or do that much to enjoy and go into that like expanded containerness. So I have a crystal healing membership. So that's someone that people can dive into themselves. And I have several online courses and programs, and I have a few journals. I have a crystal healing journal again. So the day to day for me is um, I have two offers that people come to me for. One of them is the inner child healing with crystals. And the other is an intuitive reading with, I do chakra readings. Like I said, as I was feeling into my own chakras, I began to realize I could do the same with other people. So I could sort of feel into them. And even before I ever saw them or we connected, I can see what might be happening. Um, and I also do astrology readings, Turkish coffee readings. So what happens is I usually have a couple healings or readings during the week, and they can be at different places. I keep certain days open for other work, for creative work, for writing. And I start the day with my lemon water with magnesium and vitamin D.
There we go.
And it's funny you asked that because like I was just feeling into this. Like I have these little notes and things, and I know what's next. And then my process is I wake up and in that state between the awakening and not quite being out of the bed, I ask what wants to happen today. And I usually get like one or two signposts. They could be work related or they could be me related. So today I'm feeling a little bit more, I'm just coming back from a really intense and beautiful astrology retreat. So I'm feeling more like, ah, I might take a walk. Like before I let myself dive into the really nitty gritty of the work and the details, I can give myself a little bit more space.
Yeah.
Um, and then other days, if I have clients, I make sure that, again, depending on the empty spaces I have, what might want to fit in those empty spaces, and then what kind of care I might place in those empty spaces for me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I think that was a good answer of the question. Tell us a bit more about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day?
um, so when I was going through my prenatal journey, I was also getting more and more intuitive through my pregnancy. Something about motherhood. I know I had always had that. But at that time, for certain things, specifically like medical things, I chose not to listen. I was a first time mom, and certain things like every time I would step into that particular doctor's office, like I wouldn't feel right. But I was like, okay, they're just across from the hospital, it's going to be fine, whatever. Didn't end up being so fine. I mean, I moved through it.
Yeah.
um, After that, my decision or my pivot there was okay, I'm just going to listen for everything.
Yeah.
When you go through something like that, you're like, okay, maybe things could have been different if I listened. I don't know. Maybe I needed to go through that. Um, so then when you make a decision like that, it affects everything. Um, and there came a point with my healing work, like I was just experimenting on myself and with family members. When it became time to open it up to the world, I said, okay, just I want to be of service. However, I can be of service. And I tell people like that could have meant that I could have been sent through my intuition back to the corporate world. I could have been sent back to the yoga studio. But it just so happened that more and more I was led and guided to where I am today. And the intuitive journey that I am on now is the guidance that I hear most often to me is keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
I know that sounds super simple, maybe silly, but um, that is the guidance I receive because I believe I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing. And what I realized over the years is for me to be keeping on, like my mind and heart and my soul that intention wants to go at 1,000 miles an hour, and my body wants to go at like 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So there needs to be compromise in between. So my intention of keeping on to help myself and others is now all about how can I tend to the places in me, tend to my inner children, tend to my physicality, make things like super easy and convenient for myself. Like, hey, this mic right here on my table, so I don't have to, like keep things organized in a way that makes sense to me. And simplify so that the mission is what drives me, or that the guidance can drive me. My work is constantly moving away the noise. No to this email, no to this invitation, no to this, and then like maybe yes to this invitation. And then it's also always like refining my expression. How am I speaking? How am I being present? How am I not just in my work, but like everywhere, because everything is my work,
Hmm.
everything is my art, and everything is my healing art. So, me being present and fully in my body and breathing is my healing offer to the world. Um, Perhaps at times more than all the stuff I creatively put out to the world. So I don't want to be like, oh, I create these shiny things and then like I'm a hot mess, angry, and shouting at my kid in the kitchen. That's not how I want to live. There needs to be some wholeness. So that to me is the intention of service, but not at the expense of myself, is what I'm learning and relearning right now.
I love it. And then tell us about your dreams and goals. What's your vision for your life, your company? Um, yeah,
I was thinking about this. Nobody had asked me about this before.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's why I have the show.
I, of course, have things that I want to accomplish and reach. Um, like one of my dreams is to create an online summit around healing, and for healing practitioners. Um, there are a few like book droplets in that dream. They're not quite crystallized yet, but they're there. Um, there's the dream of like what I was mentioning, that simplification and harmony in my online presence and my offerings, and deepening of my offerings. And then I was also, when I looked into this, I also saw myself. I have this beautiful living room, and we have like a huge window that overlooks the backyard. We have trees in the backyard. And when the sun is coming down, I call it the golden hour. There's this beautiful hue of sunset that just shines in. And then I was imagining myself just sitting on our like very old couch, looking out at the trees in the golden hour and just feeling safe and present in my body. So that is that is the dream, I think. And as I tend to the little pieces of my business, I'm like, oh, that's actually making it possible for me to relax in my body. Because if I don't do that, there's going to be this constant urge to bring things forth. So my working is attending to my soul in a way, but not at the expense of my physical, like very sweet and expanded nervous system openness in my body.
Mhm.
Yeah, if anything comes at the expense of that, there needs to be an adjustment, there needs to be a change, or there needs to be a letting go.
I got you. Okay, so we got online summit around healing and healing practitioners. You want to drop some books somewhere in there? Those haven't crystallized yet. The simplification and harmony of your online presence and offerings, and then being safe and present in your body. And then I said, while looking at the metaphorical trees during golden hour, or is that the literal trees during golden hour? Like, is that moment the dream repeated over, or is it like that feeling the dream repeated over?
It's both. I
Mm.
mean, I do have literal tree. I'm looking at them now.
All right, I'll put
I have,
metaphorical and literal then. There we go.
yes, yeah. That's sort of like, I think sunset for me is the sun rises. And the Egyptian people believed that different points of the sun had different personalities and energies. Like the sun rises, you wake up, and if you tend it to yourself enough, you're ready for the day.
Hmm.
You're gonna do what you need to do. And then you do what you need to do. You keep keeping on. At the end of the day, though, there's sort of this integration time with the sunset. You're like, okay, I did what I could today and I feel good about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the dream, I think.
I love it. Well, any other dreams and goals that you want to add to that before we move on?
Um, on a personal level, I love traveling,
Mm,
exploring. So yeah, let's add that.
there we go.
I feel like you're my intention setting person today.
I love it. I love it. Well, cool. What are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop right now to make these dreams and goals come true?
Ooh. Um, skills. I am working with, I'm actually within a program where I am filling the bits and pieces of like the technical things that have been missing. And there are a few things I need to learn there. So I'm gonna say like technical skills.
Okay.
Um,
And is that technical skills around coaching people, around social media, around marketing, like technical skills around?
around building um the marketing and the structure of my offerings around making them more available to people.
Gotcha.
Um, the other skill would be practicing enoughness because I do want to just heal the world now. Um, but that balance of, again, like I've done what I can today and letting myself off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
And the third one would be, um, ooh, that's a hard one, right? Getting help around my business.
There we go.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, what are the highest impact daily actions that are going to tick the needle forward toward your dreams and goals?
highest impact. Hmm. What I've realized is that if I'm not being productive, if I am getting triggered by a technical thing or something, or if I'm feeling that not enoughness, not being perfect, that confusion, overwhelm, whatever, it's more often than not an indication of the state of my nervous system and something that needs healing in me. So the highest impact thing for me is still not getting sucked into those things and taking whatever steps I need to heal and nourish myself so that I can be present for taking action.
I gotcha.
So
I
I
mean,
am the bottleneck, Timmy. I am.
we, we always are. It's always just us, if we're being honest. And I like that you said if you're not being productive, it's because of the state of your nervous system. Because it's easy for people to listen to this and be like, "Nah, that's not true." But then think about when you're not being productive or you're being triggered by something you need to learn. It's probably because you're judging yourself, and you're judging yourself probably because of some idea that got cemented in you when you were before the age of 7 that you haven't identified yet. And the fact that you haven't identified it or you haven't fully dealt with it or forgiven yourself for it or accepted grace in that area is the thing that's triggering you in that moment. And if you weren't so triggered emotionally, you might be able to be more productive. And so you really can draw that lack of productivity in the moment to an emotion that's probably tied to an experience or a belief that you experienced when you were very, very young. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I like that. I like that you went there. And then, so heal and nourish yourself to be present to take action is kind of the
Yeah.
highest impact daily action you can take. And so, what character trait do you most need to develop right now to make your dream life come true?
Ooh, you're asking the hard question. Character trait is I am a very internal person.
Hmm.
I think pandemic has contributed to that too, a little bit more. So mm, occasionally I find myself like I'm very comfortable being in my home, in me, meditation, that sort of thing. Um, and to come out and to meet people in social media, in actual life, which I need to do as a healer too. So that gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I'm working on it.
Okay, so more like outgoing nature and willingness to go outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, not even outgoing, but I know that certain things deplete me. Like I just got this invitation from this beautiful human to be in a healing fair where I live, like to have a table, maybe do a workshop and see people. The moment I saw that, I was like, ooh, depletion. That would
Yeah.
drain me, you know. And it's okay to know that. And I think my challenge is a little bit like, and I can handle it to a certain degree, but I know like that's not my natural place
Hmm.
that I want to be all the time. But I think what I'm wanting to be in is to be open to that every once in a while.
Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha. An openness to, I'll just call them extroverted activities for simplicity.
Yeah, that's something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if there were one or two people you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would they be and how would they help you?
Mm, who would I want to meet and how would they help me? I was thinking about it. I was like, what if I met my child self,
Mm,
like 2 or 3 year old, to see the purity in them,
yeah.
see what they were like? maybe like if like as a baby, as a 2, 3 year old, something like that. And then I was like, what if I see my older self, if that's meant to happen, like older, wiser, happy, the one who's seen enough sunsets and understands what I've been through and what I made of it. Mm, but not in the sense like I don't want to know. And I'm pretty sure if she told me some things, I wouldn't listen. But in the sense of like to get the energy of her, um, to sense into the possibility,
Hmm.
something like that.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you
So the
ever try to visualize either your younger self or your older self? Something that really helped me when, because I had trouble like feeling gratitude. I could say things that I was theoretically thankful for, but to feel it in my body was strange for me. I really couldn't do it for a long time. And then I started visualizing this being the last time I ever lived this moment. And I would do that by thinking of my 85-year-old self and looking back on this moment when I'm 24 and looking around, being like, wow, I remember Austin before it was overrun by AI. I remember when my wife and I would take walks in the Texas heat. I remember when, and I started acting like I was that 85-year-old person looking back on my moment right now, and it helped me to feel more grateful. And so I think I tapped into some of the kind of gratitude or longing that that older self would feel there. And so just curious if you've ever tried anything like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I do. I work with and I connect with my inner children all the time. And my inner children definition is the versions of you in the past or past lives, in the now or parallel lives, or in the future lives. And that includes different versions of you in the future. But I hadn't quite heard it explained that way. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I just have to
What's
give, oh, what was it?
I was curious about your what your if you know your sun sign, astrology sign.
Um, like Libra or something like that? Like
Okay.
those? No, I'm a Taurus. I'm a Taurus.
Okay.
Mhm.
I would need to know more, but okay. I was just curious.
All good, all good. Yeah, I have to give credit where credit is due. I got that idea from Alex Hormozy. He calls it the grandfather frame, and it really, really helped me because he had that same issue of trouble feeling grateful. Then he employed that. Then I try. I was like, huh, there's something to this. So anyway, just wanted
Yeah.
to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I talk about the gratitude piece for a minute?
Please go for it.
Mm, the way that entered into my life was with the myth of Persephone, and this happened during the pandemic. Um, because I was feeling like, what's going on? What the what the heck is going on? Um, and then I found this myth where Persephone, as a young girl, gets pulled down into the depths of darkness. And she's this like playful, like fairy, like child that just, hops around flower to flower. And then Hades, the god of underworld, is like, come here. And he takes her down. And at first she's very disoriented. She doesn't get it. Like she's used to the bright light. So her eyes get used to the darkness. She's used to these intense scents. Her sense of scent gets used to the subtler scents.
Mhm,
And then she looks around and then she finally ends up eating a seed of a pomegranate from the underworld, which then means that she'll need to spend like 1/3 of the year there, and then her mom negotiates something and she comes out. But when she comes out, because she tasted the seed and the subtleties of the underworld, the darkness, that expands the subtler senses, she's able to appreciate the light, the flowers, the big sands, so she experienced the depth of the life, the height, the expandedness. So she's a more expanded person. She's a different person when she comes up. And my approach was, okay, so here I am in my body. If there are parts that feel a little bit off, can I find like a little seed of fullness in them? It doesn't have to be like the seed bloomed, and it doesn't have to be like always there's a flower that's shouting happiness all the time. But can I find like a little bit of tenderness and something in here, that in that body part, that's going to fill me up with a little bit of joy? I call it gratefulness. I call it heartfulness. And in that filling up, it's like developing, instead of negating that part that hurts, it's developing that relationship. Oh, you have gifts to me that are not easily visible. There are things here for me to taste, to hear, to see.
Yeah,
It just, my eyes need to get acclimated, my senses need to get acclimated to realizing the gifts in every situation and every part of my body.
I got you. Thanks for
Mm,
sharing that.
pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. And how long ago did you hear about that myth?
It's been with me for a while, and I incorporated it into this 40 days of gratitude journal. And I call it finding the nectar. The pomegranate seed is the nectar in every moment. Finding the nectar in your every single day and within your, and I have different sections within your body, within your life, and so on. But yeah.
There we go. There we go. Well, now we're gonna jump into our thriving three real quick. What's your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Podcasts, I'm really enjoying We Can Do Hard Things
Hmm.
by Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and their sister, Amanda,
Yep.
because they get real about real things, about women things. I like that a lot. Um, what was it? The movie is my all-time favorite movie for now is Encanto,
Mm.
just because that's such a powerful symbolic journey of healing.
Yeah.
Like the house is your body, the house that breaks down is your body, and then she rebuilds it through connecting, through understanding what's happening in her and in her I mean, that's just such a powerful metaphor. The book is The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera, and that's because it's a weird story, but he is such a skillful writer, and he tells you what's happening and then tells you in layers what else is happening. All these like archetypal and even like symbolic connections, that they're different layers even within a sentence, which I love.
There we go. There we go. And what's one way you like to take care of yourself?
By doing what I love, by moving towards what I love, by moving towards what makes me feel nervous system wise expanded.
Mm, I got you. Okay, we got two more really, okay, we have a couple more, so I won't say that. But this is the final series of questions. The first one's going to be, what is one limiting belief that continues to pop up in your life, if any?
Yeah, I'm not enough.
Mm,
That comes up often.
and where did it come from?
Mm, it comes from the part of me that wasn't seen and heard and understood as a child. It comes from wanting to be more than I am, my willingness and my dream and wish for the world and all of us to heal. I mean, in a sense, I'm not enough. It's not just up to me. And I am enough. What I'm discovering is that I am enough in the sense that if I do everything I do with love, infuse it all with love, which is the healing piece, then that's in itself enough. And then it's up to everyone else to say, okay, that's for me or not. That's up to them.
Yep.
But my work is not to convince them, to coerce them, but my work is to fill everything with love.
There we go. Do you have any limiting actions that reinforce the belief that you're not enough? Or inactions, limiting actions or inactions?
I mean, always.
Yeah.
Always. I think one is my relationship with my body is hard sometimes because, again, like there are certain things that slow me down
Hmm.
that I get really upset about. And I know they have a purpose and I know they're teaching me something. Um, but it's hard to be with that sometimes.
Yeah, I gotcha. Last question for you. What is your favorite belief about yourself?
Mm. I mean well. I believe that mean well, and it may not always be understood that way. It may not always come across that way to the people around me, but I'm willing to make reparations. I'm willing to say sorry. Like if I got distracted and didn't see my daughter for a minute or something, I'm willing to say sorry. I'm willing to relook at things. But I know in my heart I always mean well.
I love it. Damla, that's all we got for you. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. This was awesome. I loved it.
Of course. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
Uh, no, I would love people to feel into this, see what they get from it. And if they would like to get in touch with me, they can find me on my website at dropofom.com or my Instagram, which is the same, Facebook, which is the same, at dropofom. Um, and that's about taking responsibility for the drop of Om that you are in a sea of Om, in a sea of vibration. You are a drop of vibration, taking responsibility for it and realizing you have wounds and it's up to you to be with them and up to you to keep on nourishing yourself and healing yourself enough to become a healing droplet in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. Well, awesome. If you guys were listening to this and you loved what Damla had to say, make sure to check her out, adropofom.com. Her social media will also be down in the show notes along with that website link. Thank you guys so much for watching. Damla, thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next one. And on this note, we're out.